Hello. Today we'll be looking at IBM's Engineering Lifecycle Management tool. Now, this is an end-to-end development management tool that supports a number of things. It can support your requirements, design, traceability of requirements to design, to what is getting developed, how is it getting tested, and so on. It's an end-to-end development management tool that we're going to look at today. It not only does that end-to-end management, it also does support a lot of industry standards for development and risk management. And we will see examples of a few of the industry standards like ISO 13485 and ISO 14971, which is for development processes and for risk management. We'll also take an example of an industry, in this case, a medical devices industry, which uses an industry standard like IEC 62304, which is the standard for requirements for life cycle of all medical devices software development and so on. Throughout the demo, we will go through design planning, requirements management, tracing requirements to design, and also how do you do test management. So let's go look at the tool right now. As I said, we're going to start logging in into JAS, which is the IBM ELM tool. Now, we are doing it for medical services, a company, in this case, a fictitious medical services incorporated design. This is the general project dashboard. We are looking at implementing infusion pump software for infusion pumps. As you see, the general dashboard contains the overall set of problem tracker, what is the coverage requirements, and so on. It also contains the system requirements to test cases mapping. It contains all the reviews, and it contains the users' change requests that have happened. We will start this demonstration but by looking at the tabs here, and we'll go through each of them very quickly. We'll go through the design planning, FMEA, and then we'll look at some operational hazard analysis, some reviews, design verifications, design validations, test cases, and finally lifecycle statistics. And that's all the things that we will be looking at, as well as the requirements, how requirements are being managed. Let's start with design planning, right? As I said, this is for medical industry, so we should know what standards the medical industry needs. For example, here we have the IEC 62304 standard, and you can look at what the standard itself is and how it is getting implemented here. So we can look at the objectives, we can look at software development processes, and it tells you all the objectives. So let's, for example, see one of the objectives, and it tells you what do we have for these objectives. And if we look at, say, run tests or develop test cases, it tells you what are the steps, what are the inputs, and so on. Now, let's go back to the design process itself, design planning itself. Here, we can look at all the full solution roadmap. We can see what the features are, and in a ranked list, we can look at the features that are there for this release. And the roadmap, as well as we can look at traceability. Here we have the requirement that is implements what requirement. This is the line item. Implements what requirement, elaborated by what architecture, and tested by what test case. So you have a full traceability, as you can see, for each line item. What is the requirement that it is implementing, what is the architectural element that it is supporting, and what are the test cases that is going to be used. Let's look at, and there is also release management that shows up. What is the development plans by release management? Let's look quickly at the solutioning roadmap. This tells us what are the list of things that are being assigned. So when you look at the solution roadmap, you can see what are all the items in the JAS list. Here I'm going to look at deliver therapy, and I can go look at monitor drugs. So you can see from a solution epic to a capability to a feature to a story, and then we can also look at all the tasks involved by looking at the roadmap by task, and it shows up the tasks as well. So inside the story feature, what are the tasks that needs to be done, and who is it owned by? What is the status for the task? When it was found, when it is planned for, what sprint, and so on. We can look at these as a roadmap task item. You can look at it as a Kanban view, for example. Therefore, you can view the whole thing as a Kanban as well. Now let's continue. Go back to the project dashboard and let's start looking for the requirements that exist. So as you can see, when we click on it, we can the artifacts. We can see the project requirements, the system requirements, the software requirements that exist, and so on. And we can drill down into each of these requirements. Like for example, if we look at project requirements, and then we can look at what the requirements lists are by looking at the list of all the requirements in this list. So when we click on the software requirements, we can see the details of all the requirements that are associated with it. We can see the upstream and the lifecycle traceability of the software requirements. Similarly, if we go back and look at the product requirements, we can see the details of the product requirements, and we can see what is it satisfied by, and therefore you can go upstream and downstream of the requirements to see what the children of the requirements are, and so on. So you can see up and downstream satisfaction. You can see each of these is what does each of the requirements and what it satisfies and what it is satisfied by. As you can see the details upstream and downstream of requirements. Now let's go back to the project dashboard and let's see the reviews associated with this. If we go back to the general tab, you can see all the reviews, design reviews that are happening for this particular requirement list. So we can possibly look at what these requirements are. And one of the things that we can see is for this particular review, this is the changes that are being made, what the approvals are. It's very important that we are going to see who is approving it, when it was reviewed, what the approvals are, because these are medical devices, and one of the design requirements from the ISO standards is that you have a traceability of what requirement was reviewed and who reviewed it and who approved it and so on. Now, let's go back to the dashboard. Let's continue looking at some of the other features that this tool provides. So let's look at the FMEA analysis. Here it tells you, based on the safety requirements, what are the failure modes and what are the safety requirements. And we can look at the artifact for each of them. We can also look at the system requirements, what the portability is, and so on. We can also look at the system requirements, what the failure modes, what the relationships are, and we can drill down if we need more details associated with it. So that's with FMEA analysis. Similarly, we have the hazard analysis for the equipments. What is the hazard? What is the cause? What is the actions? What is the safety requirement that has to be met? And therefore, this is part of the requirements in our requirement list. So this way, we are tracing the needs for FMEA and operational hazard analysis as part of your requirements and how it is being met. And that will be traced in our design planning as well. We already saw the reviews of requirements. We saw the design reviews and who is reviewing it and who is approving these reviews. Um, Now let's very quickly look at design verification. Now that we know what the requirement is and what are the design aspects, how we are tracing it, we can look at the traceability between system requirement and the architecture element. And each of these, I know we can go into depth and we can drill down and see the details associated with each of these architecture element. So this way, we are now tracing from requirements to architecture and to design. Similarly, design validation will show us how these architecture elements and design is getting validated by identifying the test case execution record statistics and what are the test cases associated with this. In this case, for example, system test protocol and software test protocol summaries are shown, and we can see what are the current defects and so on, and we can drill down into each of them. Similarly, the test case status shows a list of all the test cases and how we are um, uh, passing or failing each of these test cases. Um, at this point, I want to also mention each of these we can customize to what we want to see. This is a very extensible tool where we can add widgets, and it's very simple. We can search for multiple widgets and then we can add them to our dashboard. In this case, I'm not going to add them. We'll come back to this and see more things. Finally, I also want to talk about how we are tracing um, the entire life cycle. Um, Give me one second. So as we look at the life cycle statistics, we can see how the product requirements, what does it satisfied by which systems, and how many of them are not satisfied. In this case, the system does not satisfy 13 of the product requirements. And if you are looking at the system requirements, now you are looking at 21 of them, and that is satisfied by software, 9 of them, and 12 is not satisfied. And then we can go on and see of these 21 software system requirements that is satisfied by software, 9 converts into 62 software requirements, and how many are validated by test case and so on. So essentially, what we are doing here is from product requirements, how many of the product requirements are actually validated and for which we don't have test cases. This tool essentially helps us go all the way from requirements to design planning, which shows the overall project planning. It helps us with failure mode analysis as well as operational hazard analysis. We can create reviews and create different set of baselines of your requirements as well as baselines of what is getting developed. We have capabilities for design verification, design validation, and test case analysis. And finally, we were able to see the end-to-end lifecycle statistics. I hope this gives you a good overview of the ELM tool. We'd love to come back and do a much more deeper dive into each of these capabilities and how that can be useful for your design management and product development management. Thank you. Bye.